Hello, friends. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about how much money we can save simply by being better stewards of what we already have. Not necessarily by doing anything extreme, but by slowing down, taking inventory of what's in our pantry, using up what needs to be used, and building simple habits to help our home run more smoothly. Over the next couple of days, I'll be bringing you along as I refill pantry staples, make nourishing teas for my family, spend some time in the garden, and prepare meals using ingredients we already have on hand. From overripe bananas to pantry lentils and leftover ingredients from our recent road trip, we're finding ways to make what we have work before buying more. If you're looking for practical homemaking inspiration, simple time management ideas, and ways to stretch your grocery budget without feeling deprived, I hope this video encourages you. Let's get started. One thing I've learned over the years is that saving money isn't usually about one big thing. It's the small habits we do consistently. Before moving on to the rest of today's tasks, I'm starting by getting the kitchen reset. A clean kitchen gives me a fresh slate for the day and makes it so much easier to stay on top of everything else. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Sarah. I'm a registered nurse, a homeschooling mom of five, and on this channel, I share our journey towards a more natural, intentional lifestyle through homemaking, gardening, herbal remedies, from scratch cooking, and practical ways to save money. One of the biggest ways we save on our grocery budget is by buying pantry staples in bulk. We purchase many of our grains, flour, popcorn, and other staples through Azure Standard, and buying larger quantities helps lower the cost per pound compared to constantly picking up smaller packages at the grocery store. Now that the kitchen is cleaned up, it's time to refill some of our pantry jars. My flour container is getting low, the popcorn jar needs topped off, and our wheat berry jars are looking pretty empty as well. While I'm working on that, I'm also feeding my sourdough starter so it will be active and ready for baking whenever I'm needing it. These are just some of the simple tasks, but they're the kind of habits that help keep our kitchen running smoothly and make it easier to prepare food from scratch throughout the week. With the pantry jars topped off and my sourdough starter fed, the next thing on my list is getting our teas mixed up for the week. This is one of those simple homemaking tasks that has become part of our routine over the years. As an RN, I've always been interested in supporting the body naturally whenever appropriate, and having herbal teas ready to go makes it easy for our family to reach for something nourishing throughout the day. I keep most of my herbs organized on these shelves, and today I'm mixing up a few different blends based on what our family needs right now. The first is our detox tea. I am making it a little differently than I normally do because I'm working with what we currently have on hand and what we need at the moment. I'll have the full detox recipe linked below in the description box if you'd like to make it yourself. And I have made this many times on this channel. I just really truly love this blend for my family. It is a very gentle detox for you. It is green tea, nettle, dandelion root and leaf, and some licorice root. I do sometimes add in some of the holy basil if I have it, or tulsi. And also, I like to add in cleavers every now and then just because it helps with your lymphatic system. And if your lymphatic system isn't up to par, you're not going to be detoxing as well. And right now you're seeing me hem and haw about adding in some ginger because my husband broke his foot while we were gone and he doesn't have the best foot circulation. So I have been adding ginger into his detox tea. And on this day, I decided not to do that as a family just because the kids may not like the extra spice in it all the time and don't necessarily need those properties. So what I have also been doing for him and his broken foot and the poor circulation is I have a cayenne salve recipe that I have shared with you guys before, and I will link it below, but that also helps with pain and increasing circulation. So I'm also mixing up my nourishing tea blend, and this is one we drink regularly. Usually I add it with the detox, and I like to keep it on hand because it's an easy way to incorporate supportive herbs into our daily routine, and my children love this blend. I have a version of this available for sale on my website, link below, as well as a basic recipe without any of my specific add-ons that you're seeing me do here. So instead of adding extra hibiscus, I just felt like adding these butterfly peas just to make a different color. And my children loved it. I loved it. And I'm just adding the rest from the previous jar into it just to not let anything go to waste and incorporate it. And this is something that will last us for probably a few weeks. And then I'm going to be making a separate tea for one of my children who seems to be dealing with some sort of swollen adenoids right now. And since I am making this tea for her about 3 times a day, I wanted to just make it really simple and separate from the others. And it is just nettle and cleavers. Nettle is a favorite herb of mine. If you've been here for any time, you already know this. And it's because it's so nutrient dense and is traditionally used to support and reduce inflammation and has an antihistamine effect. And while cleavers also has long been used by herbalists to support healthy lymphatic movement, which is definitely what we are looking for right now. And one thing I love about keeping a home apothecary is being able to customize things for what our family needs in particular seasons. The blends change throughout the year, but having herbs on hand means I can usually work with what I already have instead of making another shopping trip or a last minute small order that is going to take a long time to get to us. If things like this interest you, check out my blog. I have many different things and education on herbs and how to use them safely and effectively, and I'll leave that below for you guys. I even have a blog post on how to make your own tea blends if that's something that you're interested in. It really is simpler than we probably all make it out to be. No, it's got a steep now. Now that all the teas are mixed and I started my child's first tea for the day, it will need some time to steep before it's ready. So this is the perfect opportunity to step outside and tackle a few quick garden tasks. One thing that's helped me manage my time better as a busy mom is learning to work in the margins of the day. While something is soaking, baking, steeping, or cooking, I try to use that time to knock out another small task instead of waiting around. This is the first year for this in-ground garden bed area and the first time that I'm trellising tomatoes like this. And everything so far seems to be doing really, really well. Definitely the weeds. I am having a lot of love-hate relationship, mostly hate with the weeds. And these basil seeds that I have planted in between the tomatoes are coming up pretty nicely. I am still having to water these by hand just to make sure that they're getting enough water in their infancy. But as you can see, these tomatoes are really taking off. I even have a little tomato that's already forming. I believe it's the San Marzano. And you can see that I am really pruning these back hard. As I'm voicing this over, my garden has gone wild again, and I need to be out there doing this again. I need to get in a routine for that. But this is looking like it's going to be a good garden season and a great way for me to do this again. One of my favorite parts of gardening is seeing the kids enjoy the harvest along the way. While I'm getting a few things done, one of my kids found some berries to snack on, which is one of those simple moments that makes all the effort worth it. And honestly, this is why I do what I'm doing with the garden and sacrificing my career, some would say, to stay home with my children and do this and live as intentionally as possible. It's for these moments right here that I truly cherish. So while I was gone on the road trip with my 5 children across country back to the Midwest, my husband fell and broke his foot and was not able to water any of my potted plants that were not on drip irrigation, which is why you see so much dead over here. His parents did come over and help water the actual garden, but they did not know to water things like the blueberries right there or any of the flowers. Thankfully, a lot of it seems to be coming back to life. I have been going out there daily and hand watering everything. So it doesn't seem like too much was killed off because of this mishap. But such is life. Things happen. Roll with the punches. And we will still have an amazing garden this year. I just know it. So the garden didn't need hours of attention on this day, but a few minutes here and there really add up over the course of a season. I'm checking on some of the recently planted seeds, giving them a drink, pulling a few weeds, and doing a little pruning while I'm out here. And I think gardening is just another great example of stewardship. A few minutes of care today can mean fresh food for our family later on, and every tomato, herb, berry, or salad green that comes from the garden is one less thing we have to purchase at the store. It's not about having a perfect garden, it's about consistently showing up and taking care of what you've been given. The tea is now done steeping. I've gotten probably about 15 to 20 minutes worth of garden work done. So I am preparing my daughter's tea with honey, and they like having monk fruit in there just to add that little oomph of sweetness. And then, of course, because of the heat from it steeping, it needs some ice cubes, which you'll see is the first thing that she decides to eat. So the next thing I'm going to do is start preparing for the next day by grinding some flour for breakfast. So I love using my Nutrimill for grinding my flour. This is just spelt flour. I have been doing buckwheat as well, trying to get through that someone had given me. But on this day, I knew that I was going to be utilizing some leftover bananas that needed to be used up. So I am preparing to make some muffins. And with that, I don't want to be using my grain meal first thing in the morning while some of my children are sleeping. And so doing this the night before and doing it in a semi-airtight container like this, I'll be putting a lid on it and I will just go ahead and put it into the freezer overnight. So again, in the morning, I just grab it and go. And if you would like a coupon code for a Nutrimill for $20 off, I will have a link and the code in the video description box below. And it will also work for other items on the website, such as this lovely Bosch mixer that I use all the time. These are serious workhorses for my kitchen, along with the Berkey that I am constantly filling, especially this time of year with it heating up and everybody drinking more water. So this is a banana millet muffin recipe. I will put the cookbook in the description box below, along with everything else. And I don't have buttermilk on hand. So I like to do it this way with an acid like apple cider vinegar. You can use regular vinegar. You can use lemon juice, I believe. And you just do about a tablespoon or so for your milk and let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes or until it gets a little bit chunky. And as gross as that sounds, and then you can use it in place of buttermilk. So that is just one of those kitchen lessons that you can utilize to save money because then you're not always having to keep buttermilk on hand and it probably going to waste like I did many times over. So in keeping with the theme of this video is when you have recipes and you may not have something that it calls for in that specific recipe, like the buttermilk, or if you don't have the millet here that I have, then you can omit that, or you could probably substitute it with something else. The millet is not that important except for the texture and a little bit of added nutrition. You could definitely add things like sliced almonds or chopped almonds or whatever kind of nut you would like to make a banana nut muffin. So with that, I would encourage you to not be such a stickler on recipes and to Google if you have to while we have that resource available to us and learn what kind of substitutions, like if you run out of eggs, what can you use in its stay and things along those lines are valuable, valuable lessons and will save you so much money over the course of your cooking career, so to speak. Another way to utilize my time wisely and to probably save money over this time is to make a double or triple batch of anything that I am making. So this is, I believe, a double batch, but it came out more like a triple batch that I am making this day. And that is fine. A lot of these went into the freezer or they just get eaten right away. And that is totally fine over several days because it saves me on making another breakfast or of a breakfast. Because let's face it, muffins are not just the only part. I make sausage with them on this day to have some extra protein, but I don't feel bad about giving them muffins like this because A, it has the banana in it. It had honey in it instead of sugar this time. And because I did do the fresh milled flour, there's added nutrients in that as opposed to just using all-purpose flour. And then overall, it was not bought at the store. So I know exactly what went into it. And not only that, it was made with love. And yes, I did say that. Thank you very much. And these sausages are again from Good Ranchers that I have been using. They just taste so good. And no, they are not the cheapest by any means, but it is something that we are doing as much as possible. But we are still buying things in bulk from places like Costco, Winco, and Grocery Outlet. If you have seen any of my recent grocery haul videos, you'll know what I mean. Beverages is something that will suck your bank account dry. Your grocery budget will go bye-bye really fast with things like juices and along other things along those lines. So, as you can see, I have a very large stash of iced teas and things that are pre-blended for me. And I just absolutely love these. My kids love these. They're basically super simple. And I will show you in a second how we make these. You can make them with honey instead of the sugar that I use. You'll see that I do add a pinch or so of salt into this because that is Redmond's real salt and it does have good minerals for us to have, especially on hot days. This is just one package. I probably should have done two because it's generally about one per quart or so. And then I do like to use hot water. It doesn't have to be boiling for like tea or anything, but I do like to use the hot water from the electric kettle to help blend in the sugar or honey that I am using that day. And then I fill it up with more water from the Berkey and I let it sit overnight. Or if I did it early enough, they can have it later on in the day. Here I am using up what we already have in the pantry. I have shown you chicken salad before. It's pretty simple. But the point is that I had leftover pre-made mayonnaise from our road trip that needs to be used so it doesn't go to waste. And then I ran out to the garden to grab some greens, and that was a wonderful, wonderful treat for us. And that is what I ate. I ate a chicken salad over salad, and my children had some tater tots and deconstructed chicken salad over salad. And on this evening, I am trying to teach my family to like lentils because those are cheap protein, simple meals. And on this night, I decided to try a curry lentil. I will put the recipe that this is based off of in the description box below, but I will tell you right now, about a third of the ingredients were swapped to what I currently have in the pantry. I always have fresh onion and garlic and things like that, of course, in my pantry. And if I don't, then I would just go ahead and use the garlic and onion powder. But I really do prefer to use fresh as much as possible. And that dump you saw right there was way too much. My poor children. Oh my goodness. So keep that in mind if you're doing this for your children. But some of the things that it called for was coconut milk, and I only had one can of coconut milk. I am doubling this recipe so that we had leftovers that I could freeze or use for lunches the next day, which is what we actually did. So I only had one can of coconut milk and I had a can of coconut cream. So that is what I did. And then it called for diced tomatoes. I only have diced tomatoes with like fire roasted peppers and such forth. So that is what I used. And then mainly it called for red lentils and I have French green lentils. So I just knew going into this that it was going to take longer and that I would have to continually add more liquid to cook it down. But this still came out absolutely delicious. And I just made a thing of toasted rice next to it. And I used some of the chicken bouillon that I have made with you guys before. And it came out fantastic. This was such a flavorful, inexpensive dish that we already had all the pantry staples for. And so, again, if you haven't learned what to swap and what you can swap, I highly recommend you challenge yourself. Look what you have in your pantry and see what you can make with it. And look at those recipes that you've been wanting to try and see what you can swap out so that you don't have to go to the store and buy every single ingredient. And that is it for today's productive homemaking days. I hope this video encourages you to look at what you already have before buying more. So much of saving money comes down to simple habits like planning ahead, reducing waste, and making the most of the resources already in our homes. I'd love to hear in the comments what's one homemaking habit that's helping your family save money right now. Let's make this a comment thread of sharing for everybody to learn from. And thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.